You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network and X Zone Broadcast Network. Visit our website at www.xzoneradiotv.com.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Out in the field, farmers grew bread and called for the meat. They took for the shed. Then dark came to fall. Silence was all. A beauty shone bright, surrounded by light. Come on now. I fell in love with an alien. I fell in love with their eyes. I fell in love with an alien. I'm telling you no disguise.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and X Zone Broadcast Network. We're coming to you from our affiliates right around the world, right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Australia, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. That's 1-800-610-7035. My email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, you can always chat with us here in our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, by using the MSN address xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Exonation, my guest this hour is DC Agar. And DC, welcome to the X Zone.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity.
DC, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been professionally a truck driver and worked in retail dealing with people, and I've also had some education at Purdue University in their biology program. I was majoring in evolutionary and population and genetic biology when I went there. Mm-hmm. So I do have some scientific background, and I can describe some of my experiences hopefully as a scientifically trained person could, or at least I could try.
Now, Exonation, DC's website is dinotheorist.com or dinotheorist.com. And DC, I was wondering if you could tell us what plausible reasons would there be for aliens from other planets or elsewhere to visit planet Earth at all?
Well, I've always liked the skeptical arguments from a scientific point of view that it is not likely that aliens would visit Earth for seeking out natural resources, scientific interests in humanity. I think that would be limited, like the natural resource possibility, by the simple fact that Earth is too far out towards the edge of the Milky Way to justify either. I think that whatever they might find scientifically or for natural resources this far out on the edge of the Milky Way would be more likely found toward the center where there's more trade routes, and just assuming the universe is populated, trade routes would more likely be closer to the center of a galaxy and not out at the edge. So whatever they'd be looking for would be found somewhere else. But the one explanation that seems to have been overlooked in every source that I've ever checked out is a legal matter. And a legal matter might bring them out that far. And the fact that Earth is, humanity is at a pivotal point in its history in terms of technology. And, there's questions about whether, we're going to destroy ourselves with our own technology, whether through warfare or environmental damage. Earth could be the crux of a legal argument between forces more powerful than us. And that is the explanation that I think is overlooked. All
right, stand by, DC. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Exo Nation, DC Agar is our special guest. www.dinotheorist.com. That's DINOTHEORIST.com. DC and I will be back after this commercial break in 2 minutes as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
I'm in love with the Marion. I'm chilling in all the skies. I'm looking up heaven,
bang, bang, shoot 'em up, destiny. Bang, bang, shoot 'em up to the moon. Bang, bang, shoot 'em up, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wanted to be a spaceman. That's what I wanted to be. But now that I am a spaceman, nobody cares about me.
Welcome back, everyone. DC Agar is our special guest. www.dinotheorist.com. That's dinotheorist.com. DC, tell me, do you believe that this planet is being visited by aliens from other worlds?
I do, and part of this is based on my own experience, and other parts are based on witness testimony that corroborated that I read, that is available, to anyone at a bookstore.
DC, could you share with us your very own personal encounter that you may have had?
Yes, there was one encounter when I was at Purdue, and it was Martin Luther King Day weekend, and virtually the whole college had gone home. And I was surprised that people would go home for something for that, a 3-day weekend. But I was there anyway, and I went to bed that night alone in my dorm room in my upper bunk, and had a very strange dream. And that dream concluded with me waking up, sitting up in bed, and leaning over and looking into the middle of my room, and I started to see the top of a bald, hairless head, and in the shape of an alien as they're described in the literature. And before I could actually see the blacks of its eyes, my memory went completely black, and I didn't remember anything after that. And that was consistent with some things I had read by that time, that they edit memory. And that was one encounter then. I also had one episode where I parked my truck for the night at a town called Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is famous for its involvement in the Mothman Prophecies series of events. And that was where I went to bed feeling as if something was going to happen. And I went to my back bunk, and I started to see something like a yellowish finger reaching around my skylight to my truck, which was just a plain glass skylight, and covered up in that case by this resin plastic cover that you could clip up there. And for some reason that didn't alarm me, and I just fell asleep. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting out of the truck, and I wasn't wearing much. And I remember saying to something, I'm standing here in just my underwear, and then I hear this voice out of somewhere that says, that doesn't matter. And I started to get pulled as if by gravity sideways away from the truck towards the front of the truck, and I started looking around to where I was getting pulled. That's when I saw a craft slowly rotating beyond a set of trees over the Ohio River, and lights around the edge of the thing were, 4 lights around the edge were green, and that's how I could see it slowly rotating from left to right, and a white light underneath. At that point, I panicked, and I started to try to get down on the ground and clutch the ground, and I just immediately started floating 6 or 7 inches, and couldn't get a good grip on the ground at all, nothing but clay and gravel, and then I started to float straight upwards. And I had gone to bed thinking, like, I want to remember more of the experience this time, because at that point I'd had a few encounters. And as I started to drift up, facing down at the ground, I said, well, I don't want to remember any more than this. I remember recanting on that, and then my memory goes black, just like in the previous incident.
Why do you think that you have had these experiences?
One reason is for something that I refer to as the Nonevent Principle, which is the title of the fictional novel that I wrote that incorporates some of my true life experiences. And the non-event principle is that I had a tendency to follow the secrecy requests of these beings, and my future impact to other humans, to the attitudinal ecology of other humans regarding the existence or non-existence, are they real or not, my impact to that was zero. Because I didn't go around telling other people, you're never going to believe what happened to me yesterday. And actually, most people don't who experience this. And so I call that the non-event principle, and the novel explains what that is in the course of a exciting story. The other reason may be that I have, whatever the reason is, that aliens seem to pick on people who are related to people in the intelligence agencies. I meet that qualification. I've got a couple on either side of my family. I also have some family members who are in a fraternal organization that, is reputed to be involved with them. And there's a few organizations that are reputed to have doctrine involving this. There's some say the Scientologists got some doctrine that deals with aliens, and some say the Church of Latter-day Saints, and some say the Masons, and I'm not exactly sure, but I do have relatives that are affiliated, so that's part of the background. And the other one could be genetics. They are said to be involved with people who have certain bloodlines, and I may be of those bloodlines. I'm genetic.
Let me ask you a question that I've asked many others, and I just don't seem to get an answer that satisfies me, and maybe today is going to be my lucky day. Why isn't it that these visitors from other planets just don't land smack dab in the front of the White House in Washington, in front of the Parliament buildings in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, in Moscow Square, in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, and every other place on this planet where there is a head of state that their existence could not be denied?
Well, the use of their powerful abilities and intelligence may easily precede the disclosure of the use of that power and intelligence that they have, depending on what they want to accomplish. And as I mentioned earlier, a legal matter. They have a stake in the outcome of human events that is not best served by disclosing exactly what they can do and disclosing it right now. They are actually accomplishing plenty by keeping it at a low level and selectively contacting humans and inspiring those humans to wield the type of influence that they want.
Are the governments of the world participating in a worldwide cover-up of the existence of the ETs?
Although I haven't viewed direct evidence except for a couple of visions that I had while I was still involved with those aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I had one vision of a couple of military people talking about something. They had uniforms and brass badges and stuff, and were saying something about doing experiments with the salivary vapors of the aliens, to use the exact words I saw in that particular vision. And I saw a disfigured human being that was being subjected to some kind of chemical, and his body was bloated as if by a autoimmune disorder. And, the man appeared to be retarded. And I had a feeling this would have taken place as early as the 1950s. But, I didn't have any literal confirmation of that. I think their motivations for doing a cover-up would be pretty plausible if there was technological research involved. I mean, there's obvious reasons why they would. I don't think every person in the U.S. government from Dogcatcher on up is involved in a conspiracy, but I think the conspiracy involves people inside and outside of the government. There are some people who got much farther along in their contact process than I did, and they're out there running around. And, so there are elements within the government that are doing it, and doing it for reasons that are not necessarily good, like as far as, wise tactical choices about what to do with technological information beyond the state-of-the-art for humanity.
DC, do the visitors or the aliens pose a threat to the security of this planet?
They do. They are playing by a certain set of rules. I've often heard the argument that any visiting aliens that would be here would be not lethally dangerous, because if they were, we would know about it already. I mean, if they wanted to send an asteroid into the Earth, what could possibly stop them? Whoever's prevailing out there in space is going to prevail down here in pretty short order, you would think. But that overlooks the possibility that they are subject to any type of governance whatsoever. Saddam Hussein wanted Kuwait too. He wasn't able to keep it. Mm-hmm. And the same may be true of things beyond this Earth. And that's what it is. I did discover they are malicious, but they don't have the power to do just whatever they want and when.
Why not?
They are restrained. They are restrained by something not as evil, but more powerful than they are. And that's really the only explanation, if they were malicious, for why they haven't done it yet. Mm-hmm. But there is, you might say it's interplanetary regulations or whatever, right. But in fact, the testimony regarding this more benevolent force is out there and available. A lot of UFO researchers don't particularly like that evidence. It's not real popular. A lot of people want to believe in benevolent space brothers.
All right, let's you and I have to take a commercial break. Please stand by, DC. DC Agar is our special guest. Dinotheorist.com, DINOTHEORIST.com is his website, and we'll be back on the other side of this break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
I am a spaceman. Nobody cares about me. Hey, Mother Earth, would you bring me back down safely to the sea? Around and around and around and around is all she ever said to me.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splinza, and you're listening to my dad, Rob McConnell, on the X Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell. Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Listen to me, baby, you gotta understand. You're old enough to know the makings of a man. Listen to me, baby, it's hard to settle down. Am I asking too much for you to stick around? Every boy wants a girl he can trust to the very end. Baby, that's you, walk away. But till then, when I say let's make a two big kiss, I can't stop. No, I can't stop myself. My thing's striking again.
DC Agar is our special guest this hour, Exonation. www.dino or dinotheorist.com, dinotheorist.com. DC, have you ever been into one of their crafts? And if so, what was it like?
I was inside the craft. Most of those instances I cannot remember, such as the Point Pleasant, West Virginia incident, because my memory did go black before I completely ascended into that, but I know I was in there. Another time, the final encounter I had with them, the one where I eliminated them from my life altogether, occurred from Dunno in Florida, and I woke up in the craft, and I at first was being subjected to something that I came to understand to be a sort of reality simulation. I was faced with a supernatural enemy, and I called on this higher authority that I previously described and did something to the computer that they were using to interface my mind, basically. And when I woke up in the craft, my memory picks up where I was already sorting through some objects the size of index cards with those alien hieroglyphics along the top and then a black line. And these index cards were mostly beige and translucent, and I was looking at the hieroglyphics and putting these things into some kind of alphanumeric order. Even though I can't remember this alphabet or this number system now, I seemed to know what I was doing then, and I was trying to put them in alphanumeric order, and this was a gesture to indicate to these beings that I wasn't going to damage anything else in the craft, and that I just wanted to go back where I belonged. And this reality simulation, this computer, was some kind of safety device for the aliens, so that I directed this higher power that I called on at a computer-generated enemy that was no more real than a Pac-Man ghost drifting across your TV screen. But it smoked this whole computer, and then I wound up in the center of this aisle on one of these crafts, I presume, trying to put these cards back in order. And so I heard something at the end of the hallway, and this thing, like a six-person gurney wheeled into view, being pushed by what UFO witnesses, alien witnesses, commonly refer to as a hybrid helper with the coveralls on, and he almost could have passed for human, but the eyes were too black. Otherwise, they were pretty much the size of a human. And I walked over there, and I got on the upper deck of this people cart and allowed the guy to put a blanket over me, and I was hoping I was kind of walking the line between, acquiescence and, I'd better get out of here or I'm going to do something else, because I'm going to call in this authority again and damage something. But he started to wheel me somewhere to where there was what sounded like a female voice, and in fact it was the exact voice of one of my female supervisors from work. They used that voice for the psychological effect to bring me into compliance with something, hopefully, from their point of view. And this hybrid alien helper wheeled me towards this person who was speaking and barking orders at other beings, and then turned to me and said, "And you." And she started to say a bunch of things that I didn't dare agree with technically, because it would bring me back under compliance to, their agenda and their experimentations that they were trying to do to me. And I didn't agree with the various things she started to tell me, but when she started to say, and we'll have to recalibrate the test equipment to contain you next time, and I said, well, okay, and then I kind of resolved to myself, if I ever find myself in a situation again, I'm going to rebuke everything I see until this place is destroyed, and then she started saying, we'll have to put you back where you go.
Unreal.
And I said, okay. I finally started agreeing with her, and I woke up back in bed.
Tell me something here. How did you stop all this from happening to yourself? It seems that you had been subjected to the abduction scenario, the contact scenario, as well as other aspects of alien intervention, alien contact, and even other paranormal aspects affecting your life. How did you stop the aliens from being part of your life?
Well, the means to make it stop came from what I felt to be an unlikely source. I moved to Bible Belt country down in Florida from previously living in New York State, and I was a Yankee who just liked the Florida weather, basically. And I thought, well, I'm moving to the Bible Belt, but I'm not going to let anybody, convince me to start, going to church and everything, necessarily reading the Bible again, because I was a big agnostic. I had actually studied evolutionary biology, and, although I don't think today that it was necessarily a reason to think I was smarter than anybody who went to church, I did kind of think that way. And the person who told me and was the person who wound up convincing me what to do was a German immigrant lady with a World War II veteran husband, which, who served in Japan, not Germany. And, I simply listened to her and enjoyed some coffee with some conversations we had. And she described an experience that she had through the eyes of somebody who was a believer. And, she said that one night she woke up, after we had gotten into conversations about the supernatural and what she had seen and what I'd seen. She said she woke up at a residence in Lake City where she used to live and saw beings in her bedroom, and immediately decided they were fallen angels and prayed against them. And actually, she said she heard a voice to tell her what to say. And the words were to plead as in plead guilty or plead not guilty, plead the blood of Christ against them. And they disappeared. And so I rode home that night from enjoying coffee with her, and I remember thinking, well, she saw something similar to what I saw, but she's interpreting it, this is being interpreted through the eyes of, through a religious filter. I think she interpreted what she saw through a religious filter. But then as I was driving home, I said, well, if I'm truly open-minded, how do I really know, she's not right? And I considered the prospect of doing the same thing, and I remembered how far away from, my Christian training that I was. I went to a Catholic high school, and, they taught me a number of good things, and I considered how far I was from believing that truly, and that what I would be asking for is a divine intervention. And to have divine intervention, you got to have true faith.
Yes.
You can tell a mountain to move, but if you don't have the faith to put behind it, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. Yes.
And so I subsequently went back to believing, as I once did when I was a small child, and I didn't do it just for that reason. I mean, I realized some things that I was trying to seek righteousness on my own. I wasn't doing it, and I didn't know why. But then I realized that believing in something greater than yourself actually does make a lot of sense, and I committed myself to it fully. And when it happened, I was able to say, I plead the blood of who against you, and I'm actually afraid to use the words all at once now because I did get a result that time, and it was very powerful.
Why do aliens look relatively close to being human?
If you imagine that we have genetic engineering technology, and authors and workers of science fiction can propose that, it may be possible to engineer a new human body for oneself one day, and then download one's consciousness into that new human body, like Brave New World. You could imagine that aliens would already be well past that state of technology, and therefore they might select a body on the basis of that which serves them best for the purpose of interacting with the species that they're interacting with. And so then they would choose a more humanoid form. And when biologists say, well, these witness accounts are not likely because, and they explain that, in an entire fertile universe where there's such a diversity of life, why would something look human? And that's what I would consider the counsel of the wise. But then that's not foreseeing that they might genetically engineer whatever body they want for whatever purpose they need. And that is an explanation why they might look human to us.
Is it possible then, DC, that the encounters that were written about in the Bible with the Nephilim, or those who descended from the heavens to mate and mix with the fair women of earth, were actually aliens? And is it possible, using the hypothesis that I just mentioned, is it possible then that the birth of Christ is another example of alien intervention?
Well, that is that is discussed a lot. Genesis 6, that's the one that gives the explanation for God's destruction of the entire earth. So I guess it's important to distinguish, which miraculous births are attributed to what.
Yes.
But, in the, the Genesis 6 does describe alien-human hybridization, or it could, if you want to take a dispassionate look at the question of whether it could. I mean, I can speak from that point of view for their benefit, the skepticals' benefit, the benefit of skeptics, that it may be attributed to that alien-human intervention easily, and you would have to have a document, basically, that's mandatorily available to all humans to warn them, to give them fair warning that something that's being described in contemporary times does match something that occurred back then. If it's written down in black and white, and people believe in something, that just shows up, in UFO just because it showed up, and they didn't heed something that was written, and available, then they've been led down the wrong path, fair and square, as far as the evil entities are concerned. The angels are fair targets for speculation that, there may be an alien explanation behind them. God doesn't so much match that description because he's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, according to that same book.
Yes. And
doesn't need a UFO, therefore. But angels are more fair targets for that type of speculation.
Many of our popular works of science fiction, DC, speculate on the possibility of time travel events. Have the aliens accomplished time travel?
They claimed that they had. I was skeptical of that. I mean, I thought that anything that could accomplish time travel would be omnipotent, and I never had reason to believe these aliens were omnipotent. And I was a skeptic, throughout the contact experience that I had, and I actually go into it in my novel in a fictional context. Never really wanted to stick my neck out and say it really happened. That's why I kind of wrote it as a science fiction book and worked so hard to make it entertaining and get it up to marketable standards. But it is in there, and it was a contactee experience where I got all this information. I'm sorry, what was your original question?
Oh, we were talking about, had the aliens accomplished time travel?
Oh, accomplished time travel. Yeah. They said they had. I disbelieved it at the time, but I have since realized that, although many works of our science fiction, speculate on it, the ability to transmit energy through time is probably more feasible, and the amount of energy needed to transmit an information signal is almost infinitesimal. And that would be a much more practical and cost-effective technology to simply transmit information to oneself back through time. And I've since realized this is what they do have, which is a certain amount of precognition, and they often misuse that precognition. In fact, they're always misusing it. But like in the case of Mothman Prophecy, it's a movie which I took an interest in for obvious reasons. That particular entity uses his precognition to overstate his power and make it appear that he has the keys to life and death. And that's basically what that movie is about. And that is what they do, an ability they do have in a limited fashion. It's not as good as God's, but they do use it that way.
DC, you and I have to take our final break. Please stand by. Great talking to you, DC. DC Agar is our special guest. His website is www.dinotheorist.com. That's www.dinotheorist.com. DC Agar and I will return on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
Baby, that's you. Won't you wait? But till then, when I see your lips break into a big kiss, stop, I can't stop, stop, I can't stop. Ebony and ivory live together in perfect harmony, side by side on my piano keyboard. Oh Lord, why don't we? We all know that people are the same wherever you go. There is good and bad in everyone. And we learn to live, we learn to give each other what we need to survive. Together alive, Ebony and
And welcome back, everyone. DC Agar is our special guest. His website is www.dinotheorist.com. DC, a question that came to mind during the intro to this segment is: are there many people, to the best of your knowledge, who are still being abducted against their will by aliens?
Yes, I believe that is going on extensively. A lot of people are of the thinking that anything large like that would be going on would be the story of the 21st century, and it wouldn't be missed by the mainstream media. That's not so. I mean, it would be a good argument if you were talking about the existence question regarding something less intelligent than human, but something more intelligent than human could do everything that humans do to limit the penetration of knowledge that a human being or human organizations do. And like, for instance, tampering with witnesses, destroying evidence, and so therefore it would it could be extensive, their influence.
And maybe you could help our listeners out. Maybe there are some listeners out there who think they might be being subjected to alien abductions. Is there any clues that you can give them to determine whether or not it is an actual alien abduction or a dream that they keep on having?
Well, the scope of the influence of this phenomenon is beyond the nuts and bolts, physical abductions. I did learn that these aliens do have the ability to influence dreams remotely, though not as intensively as when you're inside the craft and hooked up. to the dream simulator, as I call it, in my book, The Nonevent Principle, and just in discussions such as this. So consequently, I mean, you may have been abducted and have no memory of it. I mean, that ability exists with the aliens, and you can have a dream that you thought was just a dream, and you actually had that dream while hooked up to this dream simulator on a craft. So their abilities are extensive. One would think the scale of such operations would be, beyond the interest of any visiting species, but if there was something very serious legally at stake, then the resources to do that would be found and called upon by those beings, and it would be economically driven more so perhaps than we would go after a natural resource,
right,
or a scientific subject of study. So it would be more intensive, not less.
Hey, DC, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This hour has gone by so fast. Continued success, X-Zone Nation. Our guest this hour, DC Agar. His website, www.dinotheorist.com. That's DINOTHEORIST.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035 is our toll-free number worldwide. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, and you're listening to us on Talkstar and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.